Welcome to the second part of this review. I'm going to pick up where we left off. I already told you all the things you can do during your action phase. Now we will be going over it. Now during your action phase, most of the times you're going to be moving 3 units, then the other player gets to move 3 units, you again get to move 3 units, he gets to move 3 units, until all the units on the board have been moved. Then you go over to the next phase. So let's just take a look at the different kinds of actions that you can do. First we have the advance action, which will let you move your troops up to their movement value. So these troops have a movement value of 4. So they can move 1, 2, 3, 4 over plain areas or areas with a road on it. Now, if they move into a forest, they would have to pay 2. So, for example, 1, 2. Now they're going to move into a forest. 3, 4. They're in the forest. Here they're moving uphill. So, moving uphill will cost 1 for the movement, plus 1 if you're moving uphill. So, it would be 1, 2. And if they would stay on the same level, it would be 3, 4. Or if they go down again, it wouldn't cost them anything because they're moving downhill. If they move uphill again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. So that's basically movement in a nutshell. So you get certain terrain are a little bit more difficult to move through. Then the second thing we're going to be going over is concentrated fire. Now concentrated fire means that your units cannot move. They stay in the same spot and they shoot at a target. So let's take a look at what we're going up against. So here for the firing squad we have 2 regular units which have a firepower of 1, which means that both of them will be adding 1 die. The commander has a fire value of 1, but he has some special abilities, but they do not govern anything important about rolling dice. Now the elite unit gets to roll 2 dice, so he has a firepower of 2. So yeah, 5 dice to roll. Now you're shooting against your enemy. So there are 4 regular infantry units, let's say. These infantry units get cover because they're in a wood space, which would mean they would add 2 cover. So you add 2 red dice. Now for scoring successes, it's pretty easy. If you're adjacent to the unit, you score a success on every 4, 5 or 6 you roll. If they are within your range, so they have a range of 4, so if they're within 4 hexes, you would score a success on every 5 or 6 you roll. If they are out of range, so which means somewhere between 5 and 8 squares, they cannot shoot further than double their distance, then you score a success on every 6 you roll. So for the defender it's a little bit different. The defender always has a success on a 5 or a 6. So you roll, there we go. So we take a look, here I got a 4, 4, 4 and 2 3s, which means I don't score successes and the defender had nothing going for them either. So that's how fire is resolved. You can also have other units that are next to you and not fatigued fire with you. That's something that I'll explain. Like if you moved, like let's say they had an advance order 1, 2, 3, 4, they move 4 spaces, then you place an exhaust marker next to it to show you that this squad has already moved and you cannot move them again this turn. So if there's another one standing next to it, they can both fire at the same target. The same goes for guys that are already in opportunity fire, which I'm going to be talking about later. But then again, the guys firing with them, so making a fire squad, they also have to be in opportunity fire. Hits against vehicles are calculated a little bit different. So let's take a look. Let's say that the target here is adjacent, so a tank is adjacent to our troops. So we again take a look at our fire value. So 2 for the regulars, 1 for the elite and 1 for the commander. They're in range and it's short range, which means that they will score success on every 4, 5 or 6 they roll. Now the tank has armor value of 4, so you add 4 dice. You roll these dice, you take a look at the results. So I rolled here for the attacker, I rolled 2 4s and a 5, which means 2 hits. And on the defender side, I rolled a 6. So which means it will cancel one of the attacker's dice. So I got 2 hits on the tank. So what happens when you score 2 hits on a tank? If you score 1 or 2 hits, you lightly damage the tank. So you have this counter. One side is going to show you that it's lightly damaged, the other side is going to show you that it's heavily damaged. You place the lightly damaged counter next to it. If you would have scored 3 hits, then you would have been badly damaged. If you would have scored more than 4 hits, so 5 hits or more, it would have been destroyed in one go. So there we go. And of course they get bonuses, what am I saying? Penalties because they're damaged, stuff like that. So that how it goes against tanks and stuff like that. Also on your chart it will show you, because that's what I forgot to tell you, how many die you get to roll. So you take a look at your firepower. So your firepower, let's say your regular infantry, has a firepower 1 against infantry squads, so regular humans, and has a firepower of 1 against vehicles. But it also only has a range of 1 against vehicles, so it has to be adjacent to the vehicle to attack it. So that's the main difference. Same goes for a tank. You look at the tank's fire value. So here, for example, this tank would have a fire value of 6 against infantry. So you roll 6 dice, stuff like that. So let's take a look at what the next one is. The next one is fire and movement. Fire and movement is actually pretty simple. It's a little bit the same of what you just saw, only you get to move your troops, but you get to move them 1 less square. But in here we have a commander, and the commander lets you move 1 extra space. So normally they would be able to move 4, but due to the commander they would move 5. But now, normally they move 4. Now they move 3, but due to the commander, they move 4. So he cancels the penalty. Now, so you get to move your troops. So let's say you move them and you move them adjacent to another target. Now you get to shoot at the target. So you take a look how many die you get to roll. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 die. There we go again. And 2 for the other. But these 5 die get halved. That's the penalty. So 5 divided by 2, you always round up, so you keep 3 dice, you roll, and take a look at the results. You scored 2 hits on a 4 and a 6, because you're adjacent, you score a hit on a 4, 5, or a 6. And the defender rolled a 6, so they always get a success on a 5 or a 6. So this cancels out one of them, so which means that you're going to be applying 1 damage, and 1 damage you apply by pulling out one of these figurines on one of the bases. So that's the basics about firing. Take a look at part 3 for the rest of the review.